Howdy all. Hope all's going good. Welcome everybody to the Juanstone stream. I'm Dan Juanstone. Hope all's going good. And we have a cause for celebration this week, as most of you know. We have just recently dropped the latest single, Seabeams, featuring the wonderful, masterful, beautiful, incredibly talented Syroon Solly. Can I just get a quick sound check from everybody? Can I just get a confirmation in chat if this is coming through nice and clear? If everyone's hearing us all right? If everything's all good visually? I'm going to keep going otherwise, but please feel free to leave any feedback in the chat because it's definitely most appreciated whilst we get started. So, yeah, how are we all doing? Hope everyone's doing good. Just checking the chat, and we've just been joined by Radio City Social. How do? Probably busy, but we are live on stream, and I was just about to do your plug. So let's get started with that, shall we? Whilst we've got your full undivided attention. How's it going, chat? All good? Nice to see you. Oh, okay. I'm going to bring down... Cheers for that, Darren. I'm going to bring down the mic ever so slightly. How about that? Is that a little bit better? Thank you very much for the heads up. And I'm just going to... just as Radio City joined the channel, they then decided to leave it. But that's fine, because they are still today's sponsor. Radio City Beer Works have graced our screens once again with... it's a pale ale this time. I actually just got this today. So if you just give us a moment, I believe this one's called Wireless. It's a 3.4% dry hopped pale ale from the great guys over at Radio City Beer Works. Thankfully this time not 8% plus powerhouse of a drink, as we have had on stream a few times before. Whilst it's obviously good fun for the viewers at home, I then end up spewing random bits of crap through just being a little bit pissed on air. So I'm actually quite relieved to have what is a 3.4% on us today. It looks like I'm actually quite struggling with this. There we go. Chin chin. This is to Wireless and to Radio City Beer Works again for being today's sponsor. So, okay, just checking the chat. Okay, a distortion might be something I have to take care of a little bit later on behind the scenes. So hopefully it's not too bad for you guys today. I've just turned it down a little bit. Please just keep us posted in the chat as to how it's sounding, and I'll try and adapt the game as we go along. So yeah, hope all's going good. This week we finally dropped Seabeams. So it's been going under a few different names. It was actually under the name of Syroon, as you can see here in the files. This is actually the old master. So basically, we've got a few things to go over today. We have got to celebrate the release of Seabeams. We're going to go over the mastering process, because I haven't actually gone over mastering before. I'm not actually that good. Anything. No, at mastering specifically. I know very little about it compared to what obviously most professionals should know. But it's just something that, like, you know, I'd like to get my teeth sunk into one day, and just sort of just about know my way around it for the time being. So I thought there's not much to my mastering process, so I thought that would probably be a nice little topic to go over today. And also what I'm guessing most of you are actually here for, forget the faff with regards to the single, obviously all of you here today are here for the free t-shirt. We have a t-shirt prize competition happening today, guys. So all of you who entered, thank you very much. Basically there was only one stipulation to enter in, and that was to save Seabeams on... I did send a message out saying to save it to Spotify. But really it could have been any streaming service that you use. So basically, just to elaborate a little bit on that, the streaming services these days, there used to be these old games of play a song on muted mode overnight, so that like it would build up royalties, and like, you know, it was a way for fans to support the artist. without really putting in too much effort. So that there was a whole kibosh that was put on that pretty much, and to no surprise really, Spotify were like, no, we ain't playing that sort of game. So now the game is pretty much metadata. So what that is basically all of the data that's happening behind the scenes with regards to the songs. And one of the big parts of recognizing metadata, or what metadata is used for, is to figure out what songs are being saved. Not so much ones that are being streamed, but songs that are being saved to different lists. So and songs that are being shared on as well. So all of you who've entered today have confirmed and sent the screenshots through to say that it's been saved and whatnot, to which I'm really, really grateful. Obviously, it doesn't just go for Seabeams. If you fancy helping out Juanstone and getting, just sort of getting that metadata to help support the cause, get us a bit of a better profile on Spotify, then just whatever songs you come across of mine, then please feel free to add them to any playlist you want as well. Doesn't matter whether you listen to it all the time, doesn't whether you never listen to it. Even if it's just hidden in a cupboard with all the other skeletons, just make sure that it's saved. It doesn't need to be played or anything else like that. Just the very act of saving is a massive, massive help to myself and the music. So with that in mind, everyone's entered. We have had in total, just looking at the list, about 20 people enter. I'm just going to flash that real quick. We've got all the names here. Can't believe the outpouring of people who either really desperately want to help out Juanstone and the project in general, or just, fancy another T-shirt, which I don't blame you. I think they look pretty good. I can't wait to get more of these printed out. This one, as some of you may be aware, is the once in a lifetime limited Jesus edition. Don't know if you guys can catch that or whatnot on the back there. There's a Bible verse there. There's like all sorts, which of course I never asked for, but like the Lord himself felt necessary to grace his presence on the back of the Seabeams T-shirt. So no, it was actually the original distributor that I went with. Like I said in the post, just gone. I'm not going to put them on blast or whatnot. But it took a while getting the shirts over. I've spoken with a few other people, in particular Radio City Social, actually. Thank you very much, who's actually done us a real big solid with regards to advising us on some good quality shirt distributors. So, nice one, James. Yeah, we're going to, if there's enough support for the Jesus versions, I'm more than happy to make some limited edition copies. But of course, there can only be one copy of this. So, we shall see if that ends up being worth anything at some point. Fingers crossed, we shall see. But yeah, if we're going to do the prize drawing a little bit after we've done the mastering process, obviously, because I know that's what you're all here for. So I'm going to make sure you're all waiting with bated breath to find out who the ultimate winner is tonight. But in case you aren't so lucky tonight, or if you haven't entered the draw and instead decided to show your support by wanting to actually buy a shirt some point soon, which quite a few of you have, and again has meant the absolute world to me. Literally just like throwing that out there. Really can't believe the outpouring of support there's been for not just this prize draw, but actually just saying we're not interested in a prize draw, we just want to enter. So really, really appreciate that, guys. The opportunity to buy the shirts will be coming soon. I will be doing it all off my own back for the time being. So if you guys can be a little bit patient, then I will be messaging you guys out. Everyone who doesn't win today, even the winner, I will be happy to let you guys know when the shirts are actually available to purchase. And we'll make some arrangements and get those shirts out to you. So, Nathan, just asking about the software. So, this is the software that we're looking at right now. So, the software that we're looking at right now is called Ableton. It's a music recording software. There's a few of them out there. There's the Apple exclusive one called Logic. There is Cubase, which I have always used ever since I was a teenager to make music. But in this past year, thanks to my good friend Lee Franklin for allowing us to utilize the Ableton software license that he has, I've been able to create music on this absolutely wonderful, fantastic piece of software. Literally has made the whole process of making music an absolute dream. Like, whereas beforehand it was quite a difficult and arduous process. So we're looking at Ableton, and what we're currently looking at is the mastering setup for Seabeams. So going to go over basically what we do to what is mastering for a start. We'll cover that, and also just go through what sort of necessary steps we take in order to get the track sounding pretty much as you hear it on the record. So just going to take another sip of our wireless and we shall begin. So what we're looking at here, we're looking at quite a few files. Now, to be fair, this is a bit of a mess. The only file that we need to be concerned with today is this one. So when I say file, like all of these different bits here, in fact, I think what we can do is we can just get rid of these for the time being, just to save ourselves the hassle. This is the one finished file. So if we just give this a quick playthrough, if you guys can let us know, obviously, if there are any issues with the audio, that'd be most appreciated. So you guys should be hearing Seabeams, the wonderful, beautiful voice of Syroon Solly. Give us a quick thumbs up in the chat, or just give us a quick affirmation that this is coming through all right. That would be really handy. So what we're listening to here is the full unmastered version of Seabeams. Just going to turn this down for a moment. Nice one. Cheers for that, Nathan. And so, yeah, so long as you can still hear us all right. Basically, what we're listening to now is what we call the final mix. And so that is when the track is pretty much all of the different sections, all of the different parts of the track are completed. They're fully mixed. They're at the levels of which I'm happy with, and it's ready to go into the final stage, which is. And so we're just checking James. Nice one, dude. And yep, basically what we're checking for in the final mix to make sure that everything's at an appropriate level. I'm actually just going to pause that real quick. Just apologies, I just find it distracting whilst talking at the same time. But we will get to listening to it properly in a little bit. So, yeah, basically with the mix, we just want to make sure that everything's at a good enough level. We just want to make sure that, like, you know, there's no glitches, there's no errors whilst playing the song through. Make sure everything is properly EQ'd, properly compressed. We don't want to be doing any more work on the individual sections of the track itself. So that means all the drums need to be perfect, all of the bass, all of the synth lines, if there's guitars, if there's any instrumentation, if there's vocals, all of that needs to be done in the mixing phase, which we've done. We've looked over a few times in previous sessions. Obviously, when we've been making songs live on the stream, they've been in the, that's all been done in the mixing phase. So once the mixing phase is done, we then move on to the mastering process. And what the mastering process does is it basically, as we've seen here, we've got the track in full. We can see all the sound waves here. We can see that, like, actually they're just a little bit, like, you know, they're not as fat or as big as they probably usually should be. If we look in this demos whips folder, we can actually get up the final master here, and we can actually see the difference visually that a mastering process does, hopefully. Anyways, let's just wait and see what happens here. Okay, yeah, so visually we now have a representation of what the track sounds like before it's mastered, so the mixing phase, as we can see up here, versus the mastering phase, which is this file at the bottom here. So if I just did a quick A and B test, so if we just play this is the final mix without any mastering on it, can you notice the difference? quite big, quite noticeable. We move it to another section of the track. So this one, quite a lot more going on in the background. We bring it over. The difference that a master makes to the track literally cannot go understated. It's integral. It's a very integral part of getting a track completely polished and sent out. Now, the mastering process in the industry is a very specific role. And what I mean by that is that you usually have people who specialize in producing. You've got your producers. They specialize in the mixing phase. They specialize in being able to get a song crafted, created, put together, put the individual Lego bricks together to make the piece itself. And then working towards what is a mastering phase, which is basically to get the track sounding as big, fat and polished as possible. And that is such a bespoke skill set upon in the industry that you literally usually have masterers, like, you know, people who specialize in being able to take your track that they've never heard before. They have got no prior context to it or whatnot, and it is their job, their profession, to take that track and just tweak the parts that they believe bring out the like, you know, add a lot of sparkle to the highs, add a lot of fat bass, low end to the bass of the sub, the low part of the frequency spectrum. And yeah, like, it's incredibly difficult job. Like most jobs in the industry, mastering is itself an art form and is very difficult to be able to just casually pick up, like I've done here. So everything that I'm sort of showing is a very bare bones, very basic look at the process of mastering. I don't want to do any like, you know, mastering engineers a disservice by trying to actually say this is comparable to what they do in any way, shape or form. But it's just what I've ascertained to be some of the more important characteristics and features of this career path itself. So yeah, let's do a deep dive and try and get round to what you guys are really here for, which is the grand prize draw. Are you guys fucking hyped or what? So let's have a look at what our mastering chain involves. We have first got a utility button. So this doesn't really do much at the time being. It's just handy to have as the first chain, because ultimately I can control volume using this little dial here. So this is called gain. And what I would use this for is that once everything I've played around my mastering chain to an adequate level, I can then adjust the volume at the end of the track to whichever volume I see fit. There will be two tools that I would usually be using across the whole span of this process. That would be span, as literally just mentioned, and a tool here called the Ulean loudness meter. So I'm not going to go too much into what each of these do, but this will tell me how my track compares sonically to other tracks. So I usually have what's called a reference track in here. I think I did have a reference track before I decided to delete everything. But basically it's a track that is already released from another producer. So, like, you know, like a producer who I enjoy listening to, or where I believe that the track sounds very similar to in the first instance. I will then use that to compare the sound waves. So if we just have a quick little idea of what this does, you can see here that the song has been summarized into a solid sound wave. So I can tell what sections are busy, what's happening where. This is my low section, this is my bass line. And if we just listen in the next few seconds, we should see a little signal pop here, which will be my kick drum. There we go. Not as actually prominent as I thought, but you can see the little pulse in here, like a little, it's literally just like feeling your pulse. You can see just here, maybe even looking over this, that the kick drum could probably do with being raised a little bit more. It's actually a little bit quiet in the original mix. That might be something that, like, you know, I essentially need to fix going forward, but, you know, the track's out now. It is what it is. There is always a period with which artists are sort of dwelling on how long they should be working on a track for. I try to not get too lost in the process because I feel like as an artist, the track will never be finished. The track will never be perfect. I mean, we're always aiming for perfection, but ultimately, we can only do the best that we can do. So, basically try to stick to a routine with releasing tracks. And try not to get too lost in the weeds of making a track sound perfect. But that's a conversation for another day. This is also a loudness meter. Without going into detail as to what all of these little bits do, this basically just tells me how loud the track is compared to other tracks. Like, whether it's going to end up barely registering on most sound systems or whether it's going to end up absolutely killing them. So I do actually have a semi-humorous anecdote from Resonance. The Resonance group, which you guys might see, is actually on the screen right now as part of our sponsor wheel. So Resonance is a music community in Chelmsford that I've been very fortunate to be a part of for the last few years. We focus on electronic music, but honestly welcome music of all styles and genres. A chance for producers to get together, share ideas, and discuss ideas and tracks, and but the main draw of it is you get to hear your tracks on the big live sound speakers that Hotbox offer out to the community. So I basically ended up nearly blowing up their sound system one night, and yeah, that wasn't good. That was because I didn't pay attention to this. I probably paid a little bit too much attention, and actually, no, I don't think I paid any attention. So, moving on. Basically, we use those two tools throughout the process. But what we have here in this giant rack is a set of tools. I'll turn each of these off at the moment and just have a quick walkthrough as to what each of these are actually doing. So, yep, they're all off. Turn our limiter on just to make sure that we don't blow out any ear holes. Just checking back with the chat. Hente, how much would it cost? Unfortunately, at the moment, quite a substantial amount. It's definitely something that I would love to consider very soon. I'm also very fortunate enough, incredibly fortunate enough to know somebody who would be able to facilitate that. But he has discussed with me what the upfront price of that would be. And so what I can do for the time being, I'll send you a message after this, Hente. We'll have a quick talk. But basically, if I can get enough names down and goes without saying enough funds down in the first place to be able to put in an order that would necessitate a batch of vinyl presses, be more than happy to get those out. So can't say when just yet, but vinyl is definitely something that will be in the works some point soon. So hopefully by that time my mixing and mastering processes will be of a better value than they are now to warrant hearing the nice crackles and hums of a vinyl player. So cheers for that, Hente. That was a great question. So we're going to start off our mix. We're going to hear what it sounds like without any treatment. And so what I'm going to do for this as well is, obviously, I'm guessing most of you are in the chat now have heard the track already. They've already added it to your playlist. Basically, we're going to skip along to a busier section of the track. Basically, with a mastering process, even though we want to know how the mastering is going to affect the track at every stage of the song, the parts that are going to be most important is going to be whenever the track is the loudest, because we're bringing up the volume of the entire track. We want to make sure that the if we was just doing the mastering process on, say, this section of the track where there isn't really much going on, there's just bits of vocal, or even in this section where it's just like Syroon's vocal break, we're going to be boosting volumes according to this. But the problem is this section is going to be so loud afterwards that it would basically just negate the whole process. So, no worries, James. Cheers for joining us. And we, yep, just having a quick look over here. So we're basically going to loop this section. Might just stretch that out. Yeah, we'll stretch it out to about here. And so what that's going to do is that's just going to loop around. We don't have to like obviously keep listening over and over because I've actually done the mastering process. But what I would do is I would listen to this section on loop. A big reason why a lot of people actually outsource the mastering process, or why a lot of artists outsource the mastering process, is to actually avoid listening to the track ad infinitum, to avoid like either growing sick of the track or to basically see if somebody else can pick up on specific sections that they probably wouldn't have picked up themselves. It's actually a really, really great case for diversity in general, is, actually just having a separate set of ears or someone from a separate background to be able to come in and basically share their thoughts and processes on the track that otherwise you might not have been privy to in the first instance. So, like I said, I do all my own mastering at the moment. I don't tend to spend too long on it. But, yeah, pretty much. I don't tend to spend too long because I like to try and move on to the next track. But there would be a point, I believe, where I would want to forward my tracks on from the mixing process onto someone who is willing to do the mastering. Yeah, just obviously to save some time, but also I believe they do a much better job than I would. So this is the track unmastered, as we've heard. So the first thing that I would want to start my mastering chain with is a touch of saturation. So we've gone over saturation before. Saturation is a form of distortion. So you may all be familiar with distortion, obviously, from electric guitar. Obviously popularized by Jimi Hendrix and other guitarists at the time, and like the Beatles going electric, Dylan going electric, etc. But the whole idea is that, like, it's less to do with going electric. I'm just going to turn off the Instagram live broadcast because it's been pretty dead for a while. I think we've got everybody who we need in the chat right now. Let's get a holler, guys. Sorry, just checking to see if we got any late entrants to the competition. No, we are good. So, pretty much, with regards to distortion, saturation, saturation is a form of distortion that, it doesn't change the sound so much as just add extra harmonics. It doesn't turn the volume up necessarily. It just increases the space with which the volume currently inhibits. So hopefully I've explained that all right. Basically what I would do is I would use this as an isotope trash distortion VST. There's all sorts of effects here that would basically fundamentally change the sound at its core, but all we want is a bit of saturation. So I've added this little bit here, and again with the mastering process, I mean, again, this might be my nascency with it or whatnot. I believe that the idea is not to really change the fundamental structure. Obviously, you're not changing much of the structure of the song, but like to really change it that much with regards to the levels and everything else like that. So whenever we're adding things, we're adding such a tiny amount to each of these. It would only be these two, this drive here in this mix. So if we just did a quick A/B, if we turn this on and off. And just to bear in mind as well, it's probably a bit late to say this, but because we're covering the mastering process, you guys may want to listen with headphones. Unless you're listening on some really good speakers, headphones might be the best way to hear the differences, because I may be playing these. If it's coming from your phone speaker, it doesn't matter too much. You just might not be able to hear the specifics, but hopefully you get the general principles the way that we've been discussing. So let's just get a quick A and B. So this is it without. And if we just add that little bit of saturation, we'll just turn it off and on again. So I don't know if you guys can pick that up, but basically what we're adding is just a tiny little bit. If you think of the frequency spectrum, so if we go down this end, or this end even, I'm just checking to see which side it is. basically we're not adding anything to the bass frequencies. We're adding frequencies to the very highest of the spectrum. We're adding a bit of polish, a bit of sheen, so that those hi-hats come through a little bit clearer. Those synths, the arpeggios in the background are a little bit more prominent. So if we just hear that again, sit without. And in fact, there is a little bit on the bass. It actually makes the bass a little bit more solid. I think you can pretty much hear it throughout the whole track. We just turn that on again. So there we go. I think, yeah, we've got some promotions going on in the chat. I did mention earlier, if you guys see any links in the chat, especially on Twitch, I don't think it's happening much on YouTube, but if there's any links in the chat, please don't click the links in the chat. We're getting a few bots come in and whatnot. I'm guessing there's quite a few of them on Twitch. Just be careful about anything you click in general on the internet, but especially here on Twitch. So this goes without saying. But yeah, basically we've added a little bit of saturation to the track. We move this along. So we've started with saturation for the high end. Now we're going to look at adding a bit to the low end. So this is what we call bark of the dog, or bark of dog. This is a relatively new VST that I've become acquainted with. I'd probably say I came around to it like last year. So in comparison to a lot of other VSTs that I've had, this one in particular is a bit new to me. It boosts, you see here, there's not very many dials, not very many commands, but the whole idea is it's built for the mastering process. And in particular built for bass, because what it does is you select the location. So if we think about an EQ, if we just get this EQ up here. So for those of you who have watched previous videos with regards to EQ, I'll just turn this on. Or in fact, we had this with Span earlier. If I just show you here, we turn this off, turn this on real quick. So this area here is our bass. And this area here is our high end. So this is all of our cymbals, our hi-hats. This section down here is the sub bass. Our kick is happening here, which is why you can see that pulsing effect. And those horns, those big horn effects in the back, that'll be this section here. You can see how that's rising up. So everywhere has its place pretty much on a frequency spectrum. As stated, the bass down here, so the lower the sound is, the more further down this end it will be. The higher the sound is, it will be up here. So with saturation, we've affected this area. With bass and with this bark of the dog, we're basically affecting this area. So if we just put this in action, and again, like, you guys may need to be listening on headphones, but if I turn this off, now turn it on. Turn it off. This one you definitely won't be hearing without good headphones. And even though over stream, or probably even just as listening to the track in general, you might not be able to register this specific tool. This is the difference of when the speaker system is colossal. This is when the bass actually is able to travel quite a sizable distance. Something like this plug-in here, this bark of dog, is going to make a huge difference. In fact, if I just boost this up quick. Is that registering for you guys? May not be. So I move that here. So the higher up the frequency spectrum, you can hear how that's affecting it. So if we just change both of those back, you could sort of make out the difference. It basically pinpoints a specific area and then boosts it up. Now, because of EQ, the way that EQ's built around or whatnot, this isn't really going to help much with regards to very fine sounds. Nice one, Nathan, for noticing that one. Wicked, man. And yeah, you might not get much with regards to frequency boost on that end, but adding this to bass makes such a huge difference. So we've got this. So yeah, good question, Nathan. So a VST is basically a tool to manipulate a sound in this system right here. So this Ableton system, but where I said that you've got other systems like Logic and Cubase earlier, which to make music. A VST is almost like an instrument. So a VST could be a synthesizer. That is like a instrument on the like, you know, you can play a synthesizer in real life, but then there'll be tools where you'll be able to have a synthesizer in the actual workstation. So like, let's say if I wanted to open up like a piano, we've got a piano here. This would be a VST. I hope I don't actually overload this. One sec. So, and I can't play piano worth of shit either, so apologies. But even still, this VST here, this is the grand piano VST. We can add some reverb onto that. This is another VST. So that then suddenly that rings out for a much longer time, makes a nice echoey effect. You get the drill. VST basically just means every time there's one of these little accessories down here that manipulates the sound in a certain way, that's a VST. So it is a catch-all term, but it usually means the instrument or piece of equipment that manipulates the sound. I can't remember what a VST stands for though. It's like a virtual something. So yeah, you just have to take my word for it. That's what it is. Unfortunately, can't tell you what it stands for. But moving on. So we went over the saturation for the high end. We've affected the bass using Bark of Dog. So with both of our frequency ends adequately looked at, we will now move on to the general EQ. So those of you guys who have been listening to previous streams will be familiar with how the EQ works. For those of you new to the channel, basically the EQ is a way of affecting volume or well, just affecting what sounds come through specific frequencies. So much like when we nice one, Nathan, for the quick Google search for that one, man. That's massive. And yeah, hopefully that answered the question with regards to VSTs, but nice one for doing the homework on that as well, man. Like we went over in span, again, our frequency spectrum here. If we have a look on the EQ, we actually turn this on. We can see that this is now coming through on here as well. And maybe if you can hear the difference on the A and B here. So this is it with the EQ turned off and the EQ turned on. So hopefully you can hear that difference. What we've done here, so what we've got with these little buttons is we're basically shaving off specific parts of the sound. So what I've done is I've cut off the very lowest of frequencies. So a quick tidbit of information is that the human ear can only register sounds 30 decibels and above. I believe that's, yep. So basically anything under 30 decibels is basically inaudible to the human ear, and we can test that ourselves here. So here's the track in full, and if we were to actually listen here, can you see there's actually sound waves underneath this 19 section, but we can't hear anything, or nothing's coming through, nothing's being registered on the sound. If we slowly move this up so we get it to 30, I think there might be a little bit, no, and just on 30 now we're registering some very basic sub bass. Now all of this, I'll just bring that back. All of this is still being registered in this section here, so it's all actually being picked up by the computer, by Ableton, and saying there's definitely sound coming through. But as humans, our ears, like I said, aren't designed to pick up any frequencies below this, so it doesn't matter what you'll be hearing it through. You may be able to feel it the same way that you can feel sub, you can feel bass, depending on how loud the system is, but you can't actually hear the information that's coming out. So if I just move this along a little bit higher, we can get a better idea of what sort of frequencies we have happening down here at the bottom. So here's our sub. You guys hearing that? Again, you might need the good headphones, you might need the solid sound system to be able to pick that up. Now what is happening up here, I don't know if you guys can see this little purple dot just behind here. This basically means that every time the signal is picked up, here there's a bit of sound picked up, is to boost that signal. So basically why I've included that is to boost the kick drum. As I said earlier, like the kick drum I don't think was really mixed in that high into the original track. So I've basically said that every time that kick drum comes through, to just boost it up a little bit. And I think you can hear that if I did a quick A and B test. I'll move this back down here real quick to where it was if we just turn this off and on again. Hear that kick? This is with it when it's off. So again, like, we're not wanting to change the sound. We're definitely not changing the texture of the kick drum or anything else like that. But we're just boosting that little section there to say, like, let's like when that kick drum comes through, let's really hear what's coming through on that one. So if we just boost this up a little bit more, let's just have a bit more of a listen as to what section we have down here. So now we've got bits of our vocals. That horn section is coming through very prominently. You can see just on this section here. So those really high peaks, again, I think if I'd have paid a bit more attention, that's something that I probably would have tried to bring down, because it is quite a bit overloading, I'd say. So if we move this up a little bit, we're starting to get a bit more clarity on those vocals, really hearing them now. And so can you see behind, I've just right next to it, there's a little green dot. So that's where I've increased the mix, where I want this specific section to come through a little bit higher. I think that's where the vocals are coming through. So if I just bring this back down here, if I turn that off, so you can hear how much more flat those vocals sound. But by bringing that up, it brings them into the mix a little bit more. Let's just bring this back up, see what else we've got. So yeah, in comes all of our hi-hats, all our rhythmic sections. And pretty much just giving a little bit more polish to those hi-hats, to those rhythm sections, just by boosting that high end a bit more, but also cutting. Bring this back down here. You may see where you've got S's and M's here. This is what's called mid-side compression. I don't want to get too lost in that because it's something that I'm learning quite recently. I don't feel like a massive authority to be able to talk on it right now, but basically it's about trying to boost signals in the middle of the mix whilst cutting out what is on the side of it. So it's on a different frequency spectrum to how we're looking here, rather than just bass and treble. It's more about listening on a left and right basis, so left speaker, right speaker. It's obviously going to be the other way around because of the camera, but you've got mid that's happening here and then side that's happening wider. So you have your one frequency spectrum that's for bass and treble, as we're looking at here on the EQ, but then mid-side compression is almost like looking at the two speakers, your left and your right, and being able to determine what sounds remain in the middle, like your bass and very fundamental sounds, and what sounds you want on the outside, like, you know, the more rhythmic sections, other bits like that. So again, don't want to get too lost in the weeds. Nice one, Bundan. I'm going to make a quick assertion that is Johnny Albone. Hope all's going good, man. Jesus, what a knockout that was. Give a holler in the chat if you guys are UFC fans. And that was one hell of a main event saved at the weekend, I must say. Because it was a pretty substandard card, followed by quite an incredible performance from the monster that is Alex Pereira at the moment. So yeah, always got time for tidy knockouts like that. And I put money on Yuri as well. Big Yuri fan, love him to pieces, but that was just a bit sad, unfortunately. But yeah, big up Pereira. Let's see where it goes from there. So yeah, moving on with the track. That's our EQ sorted. So as we summed up, we'll do a quick AB in that again as well, without the EQ, and just a bit added. So just to clarify as well, we cut out some of those really low bass signals because, as stated, they're not visible to the human ear, or not audible to the human ear. And so if they're not audible, then we don't need to keep them in, because it's just it's all about, like, mixing and mastering is all about being able to put everything in its right place, like, you know, to make sure that everything is sonically where it needs to be, so that it comes through in the most pleasant way possible. And so if we have this information that's happening down here, if we just keep this playing, you've got all these frequencies that are still happening at this section, but no one's going to be able to hear them. So why not just make more space by cutting them out entirely? So yes, give him, no worries, man. And I do agree. Give him the interim title shot. Do Pereira versus Aspinall rather than Pereira versus Jones, because Jones absolutely does not deserve to have Pereira as a heavyweight title contender before they've given Aspinall that shot. Aspinall deserves big fights. He should be fighting Jones, but Jones is a coward. So make Pereira versus Aspinall if Aspinall beats Blades. So that's going to be a fucking cracker of a fight. Moving on from the EQ to the multi-band dynamics. So I'm not going to spend too long on this because I don't know what I'm doing with this myself. This is the first time I've actually used multi-band dynamics. The idea is similar to what we looked at in the EQ, but it's about using compression rather than EQ. And so what we're looking to do is we're basically saying, like, we've still got our low sections, which is our bass here, our high sections, which is our treble, and our mid section, which is everything in between. And what we want to do with that is we basically want to say, like, using compression, which is the idea of once a certain sound signal hits a certain frequency section, so once it reaches a certain height, to then boost that signal, or to basically cap it, but to turn the volume down gradually rather than what we would do with a limiter, which is basically saying once a sound goes above a certain frequency spectrum, just slice it, like literally put a hard cap on it. What a compressor does is says that every time a signal goes above a certain threshold, gradually bring it down according to a certain set of circumstances, according to a certain set of dials, like we're looking here. So can be as simple as complex or as you want to make it. I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible for you guys. But just having a look over here with the multi-band dynamics, this is it before and this is it after. We'll go off and on again. So hopefully you guys can hear that difference. Nice one, man. Just checking the chat again real quick as well. Like we always do chat fights all day, man. So this is quality. But yeah, no, like I definitely think that'll be the best solid way to go forward on that. And yeah, no, Jones is a coward. Like, you know, he's only concerned about legacy. So sorry, I want to see Aspinall just dominate everybody really. But yes, just have a look at the question. Do you feel like the visuals affect how you design a track? Do you ever just yes, very good question, Nathan, and a very good observation. So obviously there is an art to being able to produce with your ears. The visual stuff should only ever be an accompaniment, really. You should always trust your ears on what sounds good. I very much did used to spend a lot of time gauging by charts and metrics and other bits like that, even when I believed that it actually sounded all right in that respect. But very recently I've gone back to trusting my ears and just making sure that the visuals are there to just help. They're not there to dictate. They're there to just sort of like, and where the visuals do help, they really do help, Nathan, is when you have a reference track. So let's say earlier, like I said, there's tracks that I use by a producer called Resident. There's another one I've been using by Vintage and Morelli, two producers who I think are at the top of the game right now, and I love their work, and I use their work to compare my productions to theirs. So nothing to do with the writing, nothing to do with composition. Obviously that's all individual, but with regards to their mixes, like mixing can objectively be good or bad, I believe. And so I use their tracks as a reference, and so I'll have the visuals that their tracks are creating versus the visuals that mine are, and then I can see on a direct comparison how my track compares sonically. But again, just to re-emphasize, I'm not looking at their music to try and copy what they're doing, like ideas wise, because as an artist, there's always a level of inspiration you take from tracks. There's a huge amount of inspiration I take from them, but the only thing that I'm comparing to is how their tracks come across on the stereo systems, how their tracks come across. See, the thing is that the other thing that visuals really help with in that regard as well is that the visuals help paint a better story of how your music is going to be heard on many different tools and platforms. So, like, obviously, a track's not going to sound the same coming through my computer speakers as it is in a car. Or it's not going to sound the same in a car as it does on a phone. So, like, especially on a phone. So, and you got to bear in mind as well, like, you might not think, like, as a producer, oh, well, I want my track to sound amazing on speakers. Well, there's probably a good 70-80% of people that probably aren't going to be hearing your track for the first time on a good set of speakers. They're going to be listening on their phone. Like, you know, everything is come through the phone. So, like, the whole aspect of getting it to sound good on a phone cannot be understated enough. Like, it's obviously not the way you want your track to be heard, but it's going to be heard most on a phone, especially to people who've never heard it before. So, yeah, very solid question there, Nathan. That's a really, really good observation there, mate. And I think that's a really important part to the mixing and mastering process, is making sure that it sounds good on all platforms. So that's where the visual representation helps out a lot, big time, man. So just to get back to these multi-band dynamics anyways, again, not going to go into detail too much, but what I've done here is adjusted certain levels, adjusted certain compression thresholds to say that, like, you know, when the high end of a track comes through, so we can actually hear individually here. This is the high part. We've got our low end here, all of our sub frequencies, and our midsection. And so what I've done is I've actually said to compress, if I can read this right, compress the increase the volume of the high and the mid frequencies, reduce the volume of the bass because I think it was just a bit too overpowering. But we have got quite a lot of compression happening on this midsection, which is why you've got the threshold. You've got the sound limits going past that threshold and being brought back down. In the high section, they're just about going over, but they're usually not there long enough to really be causing any sort of serious damage. And to be fair, that's not even really hitting the compression threshold. So pretty much I've just like lowered that in general just to sort of fall in line with the rest of the track. With that in mind, if we just do a quick A and B again, so this is it without, and here it is with. So you can definitely hear that difference on the high end, on like, you know, those mid frequencies, and the bass is sort of around the same, a little bit quieter, but that's fine because we want to just bring the whole essence of the track up. So Hente, let's see, the studio monitors, that is a very good question. I think they are called ELI5s. I'm not a big tech head. Not a big tech head at all, to be fair. I actually couldn't tell you the name off of my monitors off the top of my head. Couldn't even tell you about the last ones that I had, but I did recently upgrade my monitors within the last month or so, and I must say I'm really, 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 really pleased with how these new ones sound. Incredible quality, a massive upgrade over what I had last time. All I can tell you is that when I hook up to them on my phone Bluetooth, they're called ELI5s. I don't know what brand that is or whatnot, but for what it's worth, absolutely recommend them. They sound spot on, as well as these headphones as well, Audio Technica. Can't tell you what model they are off the top of my head. I don't know if they have the model names here again, but if anyone actually wants to know, feel free to message me and I'll find out after the stream and let you know what you got, what equipment I'm using this end. So but we'll try and keep it moving. We'll try and go over these last two bits because I know you guys want to find out the results of the grand prize draw. We have a glue compressor on the end here. So those of you who've been tuning into the last few sessions, and like a little bit of what we've been talking about today has been compression. Just realised I've barely taken any sips of this today. But just to re-clarify, the today's sponsor, Radio City Beer Works. Today we're sponsoring Wireless, which is a dry hopped pale ale, 3.4%. Head on over to radiocitybeerworks.co.uk. Oh no, it's www.rcbw.co.uk. And order yourself some cans. They are absolutely tremendous. If you happen to be in Chelmsford, go and visit Radio City Social for the best beers on tap, some of the best entertainment at the weekends. Hopefully be getting a few more gigs there soon, so we'll see you guys there. But the glue compressor, so compression in itself, we've got a limiter which puts a hard shelf across all sound. It basically says no sound crosses this line no matter what. a compressor says we're going to say that not a lot of, like, we're going to let all sounds go across a certain barrier, but we're going to bring them back down at the earliest possible opportunity. So the three tools to accentuate that are this threshold here, this attack, and this release. The threshold basically dictates which position the line is at on a volume spectrum. The attack says how much of that sound we allow to go past the threshold, and the release basically dictates at which point that sound comes back down again. So a very small release says we want that sound to come straight back down. A very long release says we want it to take its time coming back down to a certain level. So like, there's a million different ways to simplify that. I'm not going to try and go into them all here, but basically we want to put a glue compressor on. Now, sometimes a glue compressor on a mastering chain can make a big difference or a small difference, or a little to no difference. So in this case, I've left it in there because I did think it did make a difference. It's just a way of being able to make the whole track sound a little bit tighter. So all of those little extra sounds that might be coming out the top of the mix, it might be just like, you know, you might have a hi-hat that's a little bit louder in frequency to the other instrumentations. It's just a way of being able to put a nice little bit of glue really across the whole sound, like, you know, the clues in the name, glue compressor, just to basically, rather than have all of these little, so like we're looking at here on the in the track itself, all of these little lines that signify where the sound gets boosted or whatnot, it's able to make this sound wave a little bit more consistent all the way through, so we don't have as many strays flying off all over the place. So if we just put that to an A/B test, if we just say it's off for a minute, then we turn it on. I would be very surprised if many of you can hear much of a difference in there at all. But if we was to basically adjust this makeup here, so we're basically saying, like, the thing is that every time you put on a compressor, you're basically taking volume away, no matter which way you slice it. So a makeup volume is to basically say, for however much you take off, this is how much we're going to put back in. It's basically like an extra gain knob. Like, you know, it's just basically to add a little bit of extra volume where you may be lacking it in certain areas. So we've only turned it up a little bit after the threshold just to bring that back up and just to basically recompensate some of that volume. So there's not much that was needed really on this track. Like, I have included it in there. Not a huge difference. I'd be surprised if you really heard that difference even on a good set of studio monitors, but we've thrown it in there for good measure. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always an avenue worth exploring. And that leads us to the last part of our mastering chain. So this is what's called the ozone imager, and this is called stereo mixing. So measuring out studio width. I'll just let this play real quick. You can basically see this visualization here. And so what you've got is a visualization of how the sound is being perceived in a studio setting, like so between two speakers. What this does is, this tool is, it just widens out it doesn't change any of the volumes or whatnot. It doesn't adjust the volume necessarily for you, but it just makes the sound a little bit wider. Now you may be asking, like, why not just try and make the sound as wide as possible anyways? But obviously when you're dealing with volumes, by stretching out, making the sound too wide, you're going to be sending out a lot of signals to volumes that just won't be able to pick them up. They'll be too far out of the sonic sphere to really be able to register on any sound system, not just headphones or computer monitors. The other thing that you'll have with that as well is you'll be creating distortion by squeezing big sounds into areas that just don't quite fit. So it's always worth being careful, much like any of these tools. Like, just be very careful with how much you're adding in there. It's sort of like seasoning on a delicious dish. So pretty much you don't want to go crazy with any one flavor or whatnot. You just want to add a little bit of everything And what you're left with is a very sizable difference of what you started just by adding very tiny little changes throughout that. So we just do a quick A and B. You'll be able to hear the without the stereo width. Now if we include that in, turn that off. Again, not a massive difference, but like it does help to just give that track a little bit more fatness, a little bit, make it sound a little bit more full, and just to occupy more space ultimately enough. So yeah, that is pretty much the extent of our mastering change. So like I said at the beginning, there really isn't a lot that I particularly do with my mastering chains. Because I'm not a mastering engineer. I'm sure that any mastering engineer would have switched off this stream within about 2 minutes of me starting to explain the whole process. Just the way it is, but until I'm in a position where I can outsource my mastering efficiently, this is pretty much how I'm going to be playing it. So, yep, good to see you in chat. Yes, Jesus is back. He has risen. You've made it just in time for what is coming up next, which is our grand prize draw for the T-shirt. So I'm sure that's the main reason why you guys have rocked up today. But thank you very much for listening with regards to the mastering chain and around itself. Just having a look in chat, Nathan. How much time does it typically take from your idea and release? It's a very good question. So the original idea for this track I actually came up with in February. So it's been 4 months that I've really been working on this track. But I've not been working on this track in isolation. I've been working on quite a lot of other tracks. We've obviously made quite a few tracks on stream. I mean, to be fair, February was around the time I started streaming anyways. So, like, you know, there's it's not just been working on this one track for that period of time. But yeah, it can sometimes take that long to get a piece of music going. It's like the question of how long is a piece of string. Once the arrangement for the track is done, once like, you know, I've figured out how it's going to sound from point A to point B, the rest of it, the mixing and mastering stage, is usually quite straightforward. It's probably like a week or so. Usually at the moment I'll spend just a day mastering, if anything. Doesn't really take me that long at all, like probably just quite a few hours, if anything. And that'll be like, you know, my idea of some effort, but like a real masterer will take like, you know, a good week to work through, whether it's just one track or several. This obviously, if it's an album, they'll want to keep most things on a similar level. So yeah, like, can't really even comprehend how long the process takes for like a professional in the same position to be able to get this material done. But yeah, it can be quite a long, arduous process. With my current workflow at the moment, what I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to get a single out every 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm currently working on my next track, which is called Eudomia. Eudomenia, I think. It was named by Johnny, who's a regular on our stream. Very good friend of the channel, very good friend to myself, obviously. Massive supporter of Juanstone. And so, yep, he had the like opportunity of naming the track last time. I'll obviously be opening that up to more people once we come up with more chats on stream. But I've pretty much got the next few tracks figured out that I want to release, but I'll be releasing them every 4 to 6 weeks. But there's going to be a lot happening behind the scenes with regards to how those tracks get pushed out to press, to try and get them pitched to playlists. And yeah, it is most definitely a big word for him, man. So yeah, it's but a good one suggested all the same actually fits in with how I end up naming quite a lot of my other tracks as well. So that fitted out quite nice. So we're not going to spend too much time. Like, in fact, we're done with the mastering. I'm just going to go for a quick waz, and then once we're back, we will move on to the prize draw. So thank you all for being patient. I'll be back with you in 2 seconds. 1 sec. Really sorry, guys. Those beers go straight through me. I probably should have left the track playing during that time, but yeah, no, definitely, Nathan. Like, stick around for more streams, mate. You'll probably get the opportunity at some point soon. So yeah, and I probably do need to invest in a bucket. I'll probably make that the next merch shout. To be fair, is you know, like just basically get the Juanstone bucket going for all of your streaming piss needs. So definitely a good shout for the next time. But let's have a look. Let's get up our trusty friend Google. So the way I've deciphered this, I've picked out, like, let's have a look at some of these. So it's like random name generator. I've got a few sites here. This is one that I've used before. Name generator here, random name generator. The wheel of names pretty much I think is the standard for this. So let's get this up here. We've got some entries here already. These are most of the entries, but I'm actually going to start a new one. I don't want any sort of preconceptions that anything's been messed around with this wheel. This is a brand new wheel. I'm going to enter in all the names individually. So yep, we've got the yep, just checking the chats real quick. We're all good. So we have I believe 20 entrants. I'm just going to put everyone's names in now. So we have Nathan, Chud, Phil, Alex, Maria, Ryan, Dan T, Ollie, Jem, Hente, Albrecht, hopefully I've said that right, apologies, Daryl, Bex, Richard, Lloyd, Sarah, Greg, Dan, Bailey, Johnny. Let's just clarify that. Yep. And that is everybody. So just in chat, this is your last chance to mention if I have missed anyone out. Let's is my photo up in here? Is the see if we can get Seabeams up. Oh no 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 no. No, 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 no. I'm going to stop that. Wasn't supposed to spin there. Like, didn't want to, like, sabotage the whole operation. I hope you guys don't mind. We're going to do this again. Wheel of names. I'm really sorry about that, guys. That wasn't meant to start spinning. I was only meant to try and set a backdrop. This has been a disaster already. Hopefully we've still got all the names on there. Fantastic. Right. We're going to be good to go. Let's see if we can get some Seabeams in. Like I said, guys, if I've missed your name out, and you've submitted the details already, you've added the song to... Can I just ask everyone, by the way, as well, before we go? So I had to re-upload the track because there was an error with the original file. So the whole ask of this grand prize draw was to ask everybody to add the song to Spotify, to add the song to a playlist on Spotify, or pre-save depending on which one you did. Unfortunately, because I had to delete the track, I've basically all that metadata is gone. So if like, let's just have a look. Have I been doing tests? Oh, wow. So there, oh, mate, I ain't even been paying attention to what the adverts are. So hopefully there's not been, you know, anything too sus on that. I won't read into it personally. Of course I'm going to say that. If you guys can, oh, God. This has to be a streaming moment that lives on in infamy. I hope you guys know what sort of shit I catch for running these sort of streams in the first instance, for allowing you all to peek behind the curtain and get a view in to what might potentially... I'm going to call it libel, because I don't think it's representative of me at all. But I'm just going to let the adverts play out. But just before I lose track, please, if you can, just add the song again, because I had to delete the old one. If you guys can add it onto any sort of playlist that you guys have got on Spotify or on Apple Music, that'd be most appreciated. You guys have been massive for helping us out in this process. I'm more than happy to, just reward whoever today's lucky person is with a T-shirt. Thank you all for the support. And, let's spin the wheel. Let's find out. Let's see who wins. I don't know how to spin the wheel, guys. I got it to spin last time. Right, we'll click this. Let's find out. Oh, we have got... Oh, is he in the chat? It's going to Alex. Alex, you have won. You have won yourself an official Juanstone T-shirt, my man. I believe it's Big Bro 5000. I'm just guessing based off of the conversation that Alex. We need a confirmation right now, because we may have our winner in the chat. I'm going to feel terrible if it isn't, though. But Alex, congratulations, my man. You are the first Juanstone T-shirt winner. Yes, Alex. Well played, man. Very well fucking... You see, this should have... To answer the question, if you guys want to win a Juanstone T-shirt, show up to the fucking streams. That's the one, man. Congratulations, Alex. You have a shirt on the way to you very soon, my man. And, thank you all very much for playing. This is definitely something that I'm going to be keeping up whenever I'm releasing singles. So that's going to be every 4 to 6 weeks. I'm going to... I might just include the adverts on the side, for next time, because they've been a good laugh, been a good source of entertainment. And yeah, well paid, Alex. That's an absolutely tremendous result, mate. Thank you all very much for getting involved. Really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the saves and the support so far. The shirts will be going on sale very soon. I'm going to be sending out messages to everybody in a bit who's entered, obviously, with the results, but to basically just, remind you all that the shirts will still be on sale very soon. I'll keep you posted. It's all going to be on my own back at the moment. So I haven't got a website set up or anything. You can order your own, but if I'll be in touch with you guys. If you guys are still very much interested in getting involved, then just let me know what you're after, and I'll let you know when I'm going to start making the orders in for them. So thanks very much for today, guys. Thanks very much for tuning into the mastering process. You guys have amazing questions and brilliant observations. So look forward to running these again. Those of you new to the stream, we do these every 2 weeks. So we'll be streaming next Wednesday, but we will be streaming in a couple of weeks' time. In which case I'll probably be going over some elements of the new track that's coming out. Nice, guys. Thanks very much for tuning in. Alex, I'll be in touch in just a second, mate. And, make from there, guys. All the best, everyone. See you soon. Peace.